Well, like they too often do, the Liberals turned their backs on Western Canadians and banned all uses of strychnine in September 2024, one of the most effective and reliable tools that prairie farmers have to control destructive gopher infestations. And the cost? Well, it's real. Last season, for example, prairie farmers were devastated, with some even losing 20% of their yield. Now, really imagine this. That means almost a quarter of their farm's work. That takes countless hours of literal blood, sweat, and tears gone. That's lost income that farm families depend on to pay their bills that are even higher because of the Liberal-caused cost of living crisis. The truth is, because of these Liberals' taxes and red tape, Canadian farmers and ranchers are struggling in every way just to keep their farms alive. Which is why it's no surprise, and I've seen and heard this myself, that 70% of Canadian farmers, 70%, now tell their children not to take over the family farm, telling their children and grandchildren not to uphold their livelihoods and their legacies, which is the whole reason they built it all in the first place. Now, the devastating effects of this unilateral ban is why, earlier this year, the governments of Alberta and Saskatchewan formally asked the Liberals to allow the emergency use of 2% liquid strychnine to control the exploding population of Richardson's ground squirrels. Now, they're cute, but they're disastrous. And the Liberals rejected that really common sense request for emergency use. Farmers are literally pleading for help. And the Liberals, that ag minister who said he'd always keep his word to farmers, they said no. This decision ignores decades of safe, tightly controlled use through municipalities, and it ignores research that proves strychnine has limited environmental impact when used as directed. Gophers destroy cereal, oilseed, forage, and pasture crops, food that feeds Canada and the world. And they even chew through fiber optic cables and puncture gas and water lines. Those holes also pose danger to all grazing livestock. And for those of us who raise horses, a broken leg is usually a death sentence because treatment and recovery is way beyond the costs and time that the vast majority of rural Canadians can bear. In Alberta alone, farmers face more than $800 million in annual risk to hay and native pasture grazing land. And the truth is, if farmers and ranchers are not given access to strychnine, the gopher population will continue to explode and prairie farms will continue to be destroyed. And here's what's brutal. One of the only other option that farmers have to control that destructive population explosion is through trapping or through shooting, which is much less effective and much more expensive, especially given the cost of ammunition. But hey, the Liberals are taking farmers' firearms away while they pretend they're not, too. So don't forget that. After a decade of these same Liberals, they have backed farmers and ranchers all the way into a corner. The Liberals must reassess this uninformed and dangerous decision so Canadian prairie farmers can have the tools they need to keep doing what they do best. These Liberals say they're all about science, research, evidence, and consultation. But when it comes to rural Canadians and agriculture, their out of touch and incoherent ideologies almost always harms most the very people who do the work and feed their neighbors and the world. Now, as we always have, Conservatives, including the many MPs in the Conservative caucus, in fact, the majority of any of the parties in the House of Commons, who are farmers or rural residents themselves and live this reality every day. We stand with Canada's farmers and ranchers, who are the very best in the world. And you know what? Every single Canadian who eats, you should too, no matter where you live.